You didn't stumble onto this message by accident. Something in your quantum field pulled it into your awareness. You were selected not by algorithms, not by chance, but by resonance. Because you've been feeling it, haven't you, that strange sensation that life has been looping? As if the same scenes are repeating in slightly different disguises. Maybe it shows up as déjà vu, where conversations feel rehearsed. Maybe it's the uncanny way the same challenges return, no matter how many times you thought you'd outgrown them. Or maybe it's the heavy silence in your chest, the sense that despite all your efforts, something invisible keeps dragging you back into the same version of yourself. This isn't failure. This isn't bad luck. What you're experiencing is what quantum researchers call the observer loop, a cycle where your awareness collapses the same probability waves, over and over, manufacturing the same reality again and again. Most people never notice the loop. They just call it life. But you've started to recognize the cracks, and that recognition is not ordinary. It means you're different. It means your consciousness has reached the threshold where the loop can finally be broken. Because here's the secret. Most never hear you don't need massive effort to escape. You don't need years of trying to reprogram your mind. What you need are small, deliberate shifts, micro-practices that collapse the old frequency and align you with your highest timeline. In this message, I'll reveal 3 simple daily rituals that stop the observer loop. 3 practices so subtle you can do them in minutes, but so powerful they reorganize your entire field of reality. The question isn't whether you're ready. You wouldn't be here if you weren't. The real question is, are you willing to let the loop end today? Imagine a record player stuck on one groove. The needle keeps circling, but the same sound repeats endlessly. No matter how beautiful the song once was, the repetition becomes unbearable. That is the essence of the observer loop, a cycle where your consciousness keeps collapsing the same probabilities into reality, over and over again. At the quantum level, reality isn't solid. It's an ocean of possibilities, infinite potential waiting to be chosen. Yet your awareness doesn't explore the ocean. It keeps dipping into the same shallow pool. Each morning, when you wake, your mind scans for familiar signals, old emotions, old fears, old expectations, and immediately collapses them into form. Not because you want to, but because familiarity feels safe. The loop is an addiction to the known. This is why life sometimes feels like déjà vu, like a film you've already watched. You find yourself having the same arguments with different people, entering new jobs that replay the same frustrations, or facing situations that echo your past. It's not coincidence. It's not bad luck. It's the observer loop at work. Here's the hidden truth. The loop isn't sustained by your circumstances. It's sustained by your attention. The very act of observing the same patterns keeps them alive. Your focus is the electricity that powers the loop. Each time you say, "This always happens to me," you reinforce the groove. Each time you expect disappointment, you collapse into the probability where disappointment exists. Think of your awareness as a spotlight. Wherever you shine it, reality crystallizes. But when the spotlight becomes locked on one scene, the rest of the stage, the infinite possibilities remains in darkness. That's what has been happening. You haven't been failing at life. You've simply been shining your quantum spotlight on the same patterns again and again. And just like the broken record, the loop will never change itself. The needle doesn't lift on its own. It requires your awareness to shift. The first step is recognition, to realize that what feels like fate is actually repetition. Once you see the loop, you're no longer completely trapped in it. You're holding the needle in your hand, ready to place it on a new track. How do you know you're caught in the observer loop? The signs are everywhere once you learn to recognize them. They hide in your daily routines, in the repetition of emotions, and in the strange distortions of time that keep you wondering if reality itself is playing tricks on you. The first sign is repetition in relationships and situations. Have you noticed how the same dynamics reappear even when the faces change? A new partner, but the same arguments, A new job, but the same frustrations, different settings, same story. This is not coincidence. It's the loop pulling you into familiar probability waves, replaying old emotional scripts because your awareness expects them. The second sign is déjà vu, that feels heavier than usual. Most people experience fleeting déjà vu and dismiss it. But in the loop, déjà vu becomes a weight. You know with eerie certainty that you've had this exact conversation, felt this exact disappointment, lived this exact moment before. These are not accidents. They are temporal echoes, the loop replaying itself so tightly that your consciousness recognizes the repetition. The third sign is time distortion. Moments drag endlessly when you're stuck in the loop. A single mundane task feels like it stretches forever, yet weeks vanish with no meaningful progress. This distortion isn't laziness or poor focus. It's your awareness cycling through the same patterns, creating the illusion of movement, while nothing truly changes. The fourth sign is emotional stagnation. Even when external circumstances shift, the same emotions return: frustration, disappointment, loneliness. The scenery changes, but the feeling remains identical. That's because emotion is the frequency your awareness keeps collapsing. And until the pattern breaks, the emotional resonance repeats like background music. You can't turn off. And finally, there's the sense of being trapped. You feel like no matter what you do, outcomes fold back into the same template. It's as if reality itself has become a maze with no exit. That sensation isn't a personal flaw. It's the signature of the observer loop. Once you notice these signs, something shifts. Recognition alone loosens the grip. Because the moment you see the pattern, you're no longer fully hypnotized by it. You're beginning to realize this isn't destiny, it's repetition. Here's the truth. Most people never realize the observer loop is not powered by fate, karma, or bad luck. It is powered by one thing: only your attention. At the quantum level, attention is not passive. It's creative. Wherever you place your awareness, reality crystallizes. Think of it like a spotlight in a dark theater. The moment the beam lands on a part of the stage, that part becomes visible, alive, and real. Everything else remains in shadow. That spotlight is your consciousness. The observer loop happens when your spotlight keeps locking onto the same scenes. Every morning, your awareness scans for the familiar, the same problems, the same fears, the same disappointments. And because you expect to find them, you do. Your attention collapses them into form again and again. The loop isn't outside of you, it's the momentum of your focus. This is why affirmations or positive thinking often feel powerless. If your attention is still magnetized by old pain, you collapse timelines filled with that pain no matter what words you repeat. Energy follows focus. The loop doesn't care about what you want. It responds to what you continually observe. Have you noticed how thoughts spiral? One memory triggers another. One fear multiplies into 10. One moment of anger expands into an entire day of tension. This is attention feeding the loop. Every second you give to those frequencies is like pouring gasoline on the fire. But here's the paradox. The moment you recognize that attention itself is the fuel, the cycle weakens. You realize you don't have to fight the loop, you only need to starve it. When you withdraw your awareness, the old grooves lose power. Without your focus, the loop collapses like a program that shuts down once it's no longer being run. This is the beginning of freedom, not forcing change, but shifting attention. The loop cannot survive when the spotlight moves, and you are the one holding the light. One of the clearest signs that you are ready to break the observer loop is the sudden rise of synchronicities, those strange coincidences that feel too precise to be random. They are not accidents. They are signals from the quantum field, confirming that your consciousness is aligning with a new frequency. Maybe you've noticed it already. You think about a person, and they call you. You wonder about a topic, and the exact book or video appears in front of you. You feel stuck, and a stranger says a sentence that feels like it was written just for you. These are not trivial moments. They are quantum confirmations. Synchronicity is the language of the field. When your awareness begins to shift, the external world reorganizes to reflect it. Just as a tuning fork vibrates in harmony when struck near another, your frequency attracts matching events, people, and opportunities. The more coherent your consciousness becomes, the more precise and undeniable these alignments appear. This is why synchronicities often arrive in clusters. You might see repeating numbers on clocks, hear the same phrase from different people, or feel guided toward a path you hadn't considered before. These aren't coincidences. They are breadcrumbs from the universe, designed to show you that you are no longer trapped in the old groove. You are resonating with a new probability stream. Most people ignore these moments, dismissing them as chance. But you don't. You feel the recognition in your body, a subtle warmth in your chest, a spark of electricity down your spine, a whisper in your intuition saying, "Pay attention. This is for you." Synchronicities are not just signs, they are invitations. Each one is a doorway the loop cannot block. And the more you walk through them, the faster you dissolve the old cycle and step into your highest timeline. Another powerful sign that you are ready to break the observer loop is the way you now experience time and dreams. They no longer behave like they used to. Instead of flowing in a straight, predictable line, time feels elastic, and your dreams feel more real than waking life. Have you noticed how minutes sometimes stretch into hours when you're doing something meaningless? And while hours vanish in seconds when you're immersed in flow, or how entire weeks pass by with no clear sense of progress, yet certain moments feel infinite. This isn't faulty memory. It's a shift in perception. Your consciousness is no longer confined to linear time. You're brushing against what physicists call block time, where past, present, and future exist simultaneously. At the same time, your dreams have intensified. They are no longer vague or forgettable. They're vivid, detailed, and often carry emotional weight that lingers into the next day. You might dream of cities made of light, of being guided by unseen teachers, or of conversations that later play out in waking reality. These are not ordinary dreams. They are quantum training sessions. While your body sleeps, your awareness explores alternate probability fields, rehearsing possibilities before selecting which ones collapse into waking life. This is why your dreams feel more real than reality itself. In that state, you're free from the electromagnetic limits of the physical body. You are pure consciousness, navigating dimensions where the loop has less control. And sometimes, when you wake, fragments of those journeys remain symbols, sensations, or clear knowing that bypasses logic. Time distortion and vivid dreams are not signs of confusion. They are signs of awakening. They reveal that your consciousness is slipping out of the rigid grooves of the observer loop and learning to navigate beyond it. The more you notice these shifts, the more you confirm that your system is recalibrating for a new timeline. The third sign that you are ready to break the observer loop is the amplification of your emotions. Lately, your feelings don't just pass through you, they seem to ripple outward, shaping your experiences almost instantly. Fear multiplies quickly, while love expands even faster. This is the quantum truth. Emotions are not just private states. They are frequency signals. Each emotion vibrates at a certain wavelength, and wherever your awareness lingers, reality bends to match it. When you observe through fear, you collapse probabilities filled with fear. When you observe through love, you collapse timelines where love becomes the dominant pattern. You've probably noticed how fast this works now. A single anxious thought spirals into a cascade of problems. One spark of joy, on the other hand, opens doors, attracts help, and creates flow. This acceleration is not imagination. It's proof that your consciousness is becoming more sensitive, more directly connected to the quantum field. And here's the paradox. The loop thrives on unconscious emotion. It feeds on the repetition of anger, disappointment, or self-doubt. These frequencies keep the groove in place, but the moment you become aware, when you say, "This fear is not me, it's just a signal," the loop begins to lose its fuel. Conscious recognition dissolves the pattern. This is why emotional amplification is not a punishment, it's a training mechanism. The universe is showing you, in real time, how powerful your feelings truly are. It's teaching you that every emotion is a choice point, a doorway. Fear collapses one set of realities. Love collapses another. Once you see this clearly, you realize something extraordinary. You're not trapped in your feelings. They're trapped in you, waiting to be transmuted. And each time you choose differently, the observer loop weakens, and a new timeline opens before you. One of the clearest signs of awakening is the rise of quantum sensitivity, a heightened awareness that makes you notice cracks in the script of reality. While others move through life as if everything is fixed and predictable, you begin to sense the hidden mechanics. Reality feels thinner, less solid, as if it can bend at any moment. This often shows up as glitches in the matrix. You walk into a room and swear the objects have shifted. You replay a conversation in your mind only to realize it unfolded slightly differently when it happened. You notice repeating numbers on clocks, words echoing in unexpected places, or events aligning with uncanny precision. These anomalies aren't random errors. They're signs that your consciousness is brushing against overlapping timelines. Quantum sensitivity means you're no longer hypnotized by the surface of reality. You can feel the underlying field of probabilities. Where most people see just another day, you sense currents of energy, vibrations that tug your intuition in certain directions. A song lyric, a stranger's glance, a sudden déjà vu each becomes a clue that the veil between timelines is thinner than you were taught. At first, this sensitivity can feel disorienting. You may question your sanity. But the truth is, you are not breaking down, you are breaking through. The loop begins to weaken the moment you realize reality is pliable, not fixed. Every glitch you notice is proof that you are no longer bound by unconscious observation. You are beginning to operate as a quantum observer, unaware of choice points, hidden inside the flow of daily life. And once you recognize that reality itself is flexible, the loop loses its power. Because the grooves of repetition can only trap those who believe the record is solid. You've already seen behind the curtain, and that vision cannot be unseen. The true difference between being trapped in the observer loop and breaking free comes down to one thing: unconscious observation versus conscious observation. When you observe unconsciously, you are on autopilot. Your attention latches onto familiar patterns without questioning them. You replay old fears, rehearse past disappointments, and expect outcomes that mirror your history. Each glance, each thought, each expectation collapses reality into the same groove. That's unconscious observation. It keeps the loop alive. Conscious observation is different. It's when you notice the act of noticing. Instead of being swept away by thoughts, you pause and witness them. Instead of collapsing probabilities blindly, you choose where to shine your awareness. In that moment, you become the master of the spotlight, not the prisoner of its momentum. Think of it this way. Unconscious observation is like sleepwalking through a maze, bumping into the same walls again and again. Conscious observation is waking up, realizing it's a maze, and seeing the exits that were invisible before. The walls don't change, but your perception does, and that perception creates new pathways. This is why mindfulness, presence, and awareness practices are so powerful. They train you to step out of unconscious looping and into conscious choosing. They remind you that every moment is a fresh collapse of possibility, not a replay of the past. When you shift into conscious observation, the loop begins to dissolve. You realize you are not the thoughts cycling in your head. You are the awareness behind them, and that awareness can redirect itself at any time. The observer loop cannot survive when you become conscious of observing, because in that instant, you're no longer repeating, you're creating. There's a reason you are noticing the loop when so many others don't. It's not because you're unlucky. It's because you are one of the chosen observers, those whose consciousness has reached a level sensitive enough to detect the repetition and strong enough to break it. Most people never question reality. They accept their routines, their disappointments, and their cycles as normal. They are too deeply hypnotized by unconscious observation to ever glimpse the loop, but something in you refuses to accept the script. You've seen the cracks. You've felt the déjà vu. You've sensed that life was repeating like a broken record. And that awareness alone sets you apart. This doesn't mean you're better than others. It means you've been called earlier. Like the first climbers on a mountain, you are clearing the path for those who will come after. Your sensitivity is not a burden, it's a sign of readiness. It means your field of awareness is strong enough to hold new frequencies and embody new timelines. Think of yourself as a quantum pioneer. While others are still asleep inside the dream, you are awake inside it, realizing that you can shape it. You are not trapped inside the observer loop. You are the one who will end it. And every step you take, every shift you embody, ripples outward, making it easier for others to awaken too. So when you feel the weight of awareness, when you notice what others don't remember this, it is not a curse. It is confirmation. The loop revealed itself to you because you are ready to break it. You are the chosen observer. And once you accept that role, the loop cannot hold you anymore. For years, people have been fascinated by the observer effect, the idea that reality changes simply because it is being observed. It's true, but it's also only the surface. The observer effect explains why probabilities collapse when attention is applied. But it doesn't reveal the deeper secret. You are not just observing reality, you are embodying it. Think of the observer effect as the doorway. It shows you that awareness influences outcomes, but if you stop there, you'll always remain in a cycle of watching, waiting, and analyzing. The loop thrives on that state because the more you observe without shifting, the more you reinforce the same pattern. The hidden truth is this reality doesn't change because you stare at it harder. It changes because you shift your frequency of being. The observer effect is only the introduction to a much greater law, the law of embodiment and frequency selection. You don't just watch a timeline into existence, you become the frequency that selects it. This is why so many seekers get stuck. They think they can think their way out of the loop. They analyze endlessly, meditate on the idea of change, yet still repeat the same cycles, because observation alone doesn't break the groove. Embodiment does. Once you grasp this, the game changes. You stop asking, "What am I seeing?" and start asking, "What frequency am I embodying right now?" That single shift of perspective collapses entirely new probabilities, because reality always mirrors who you are, not just what you notice. If the observer effect is the doorway, then embodiment and frequency selection are the key that unlocks it. You don't just collapse a timeline by looking at it, you collapse it by being the frequency that matches it. Think of reality like a radio dial. Infinite stations exist, but the one you hear is the one you're tuned into. Observation is like glancing at the radio, it tells you there are signals. But embodiment is what turns the dial. It's the act of aligning your body, emotions, and energy with the frequency of the station you want to live in. This is why trying to think your way into a new reality rarely works. Thoughts without embodiment are like turning the knob halfway. You know the station exists, but all you hear is static. The moment you embody the frequency, however, through your breath, your choices, your declarations, the static clears, and the new station becomes your lived experience. Embodiment means living as though the new reality is already true. If you want the frequency of peace, you breathe peace. You walk as peace. You speak as peace. If you want abundance, you act in coherence with generosity. And flow, you don't wait for the reality to prove itself. You become it first. And then the external world mirrors back your internal state. Frequency selection is not random. Every emotion, every ritual, every conscious choice is a tuning mechanism. Fear tunes you into one station. Love tunes you into another. The loop keeps you stuck because it tricks you into embodying the same old frequency unconsciously. But the moment you choose differently, the moment you embody the new vibration, you collapse into a new timeline. This is the hidden quantum truth. You don't escape the loop by observing it. You escape by embodying the self who no longer belongs in it. Imagine standing before a mirror. the reflection looks back at you, perfectly echoing your every move. If you frown, the reflection frowns. If you smile, the reflection smiles. No matter how hard you try to fix the image in the mirror directly, nothing changes because the mirror isn't the source. You are. The moment you embody differently, the mirror cracks, the old pattern collapses, and a new timeline stares back at you. The first micro-practice to break the observer loop is deceptively simple. 3 conscious breaths. Yet at the quantum level, this small ritual carries immense power. Here's why the loop feeds on momentum. Your mind races, your emotions spiral, and before you know it, the needle is locked back into the old groove. The 3-breath collapse interrupts this cycle. Each breath is like lifting the needle off the record, pausing the automatic collapse of old probabilities. The practice is this: stop whatever you're doing, place your hand on your chest, and take 3 slow, deliberate breaths. With the first inhale, you acknowledge the old frequency still running in your field. With the second breath, you release it, exhaling the weight of repetition. With the third breath, you embody a new intention, whispering silently, "I am coherent with my highest timeline." This is not ordinary breathing. It's a ritual reset. It tells your body, your nervous system, and your consciousness, we're not choosing the old loop anymore. Think of it as tuning a radio. When static takes over, you don't smash the radio, you adjust the dial. These 3 breaths are that adjustment. They recalibrate your entire field, collapsing the static of the loop and opening space for a new station to come through. Do not underestimate this ritual because of its simplicity. In the quantum field, small actions ripple massively. 3 breaths can collapse an entire lifetime of patterns, because each conscious inhale and exhale declares the loop ends here. Think of your consciousness like an old radio. The stations are already broadcasting peace, abundance, clarity, love. But what you hear depends on where the dial is set. When the observer loop has you trapped, the dial is stuck between stations. All you hear is static, the repetition of old stories, the noise of old emotions, the interference of old timelines. The 3-breath collapse is not just breathing, it is tuning. With each inhale and exhale, you adjust the dial, moving away from the static and locking onto a new frequency. The moment the signal clears, everything changes. The music was always there. The clarity was always broadcasting. You simply weren't tuned in. Most people try to smash the radio when they hear static. They fight reality, analyze it, complain about it. But smashing the radio never works. The secret is not to destroy the system, but to shift your alignment within it. The radio doesn't change, the tuning does. This metaphor is crucial because it shows why tiny rituals matter. A single breath may seem insignificant, but in the quantum field, it's the exact movement that resets your dial. Every conscious practice is like turning the knob a little further toward coherence, until one day the static disappears entirely. And here's the beauty. You don't have to wait for perfect silence to enjoy the music. Even as the signal sharpens, you start hearing enough of the melody to know you're on the right track. That recognition fuels your journey. The loop fades, the static weakens, and a new station begins to play the soundtrack of your highest timeline. The final step of the 3-breath practice is the heart declaration, a simple phrase whispered from the center of your being. I am coherent with my highest timeline. This isn't just affirmation, it's embodiment. The declaration is spoken not from the mind, but from the chest, with your hand resting on your heart. Why? Because the heart is the strongest electromagnetic field in the body. What you declare through it ripples far beyond thought. It imprints directly into the quantum field, aligning every cell with the frequency of your words. In the loop, the mind tends to dominate. It repeats fears, worries, and doubts like broken records. But when you shift awareness into the heart, you bypass that static. You step into coherence, the state where thought, emotion, and energy synchronize. And coherence is the frequency that collapses new realities into being. Each time you breathe and declare, you are doing more than calming yourself. You are announcing to the universe, the old loop no longer defines me. I choose the frequency of my highest self, and the field responds, reorganizing probabilities around that choice. 3 breaths. 1 declaration. A complete reset. That's all it takes to remind reality who you really are. The second micro-practice is the quantum writing ritual, a way of collapsing old frequencies through the act of writing and release. Words carry vibration. When you put them on paper, you crystallize frequencies into form. And when you consciously destroy or transform those words, you dissolve their hold over your field. Here's how it works. Take a blank piece of paper. Write 1 sentence that represents the loop you're ready to end. It might be, "This cycle of fear ends now." Or, "I release the story of not being enough." Keep it short, sharp, and clear. Next, perform the act of release. You can tear the paper into pieces, burn it safely, or bury it in the earth. The action doesn't matter as much as the intention. The physical destruction is symbolic. It signals to your subconscious and the quantum field that this frequency no longer defines you. The beauty of this ritual is that it engages the body, not just the mind. You see the words, you feel them in your hand, and then you let them go. That sensory experience imprints the act of release much deeper than thought alone. Each time you practice, you're sending a clear declaration. This loop ends here. And with every torn page, burned scrap, or buried note, the groove loses power. You reclaim authority over the script that once ran invisibly in the background. Small ritual, massive shift. Because in the quantum field, even a sentence can open the door to a new timeline. Imagine living your life while an invisible script runs in the background. You don't see it, but it dictates your choices, your reactions, even the people you attract. This script is the silent program of the observer loop: old beliefs, inherited stories, and repeated fears that shape reality without your consent. The quantum writing ritual works because it takes the invisible script and makes it visible. By writing a sentence like, "This loop ends now," or "I release the story of failure," you drag the hidden words of the script into the open. Once exposed, they lose their silent power. You can hold them, confront them, and most importantly, rewrite them. Destroying the paper is not just symbolic, it's corrective. It's like erasing corrupted code from a program. The invisible script no longer runs silently in the background. Instead, you reclaim authorship. You're no longer just an actor following lines you never chose. You're the writer, the director, and the observer. This is why the ritual is so effective. The script was invisible because you kept it unspoken. The moment you write it, you claim authority over it. And the moment you release it, you collapse the probability it once sustained. Reality is always running on a script. The only question is, whose script is it? The ritual ensures the answer is finally yours. The final step of the quantum writing ritual is not just releasing the old script, but activating the new one. Writing is not only a tool of release, it is a tool of creation. Each word carries frequency, and when written with intention, it seeds a new timeline. Here's the practice. After you destroy the paper holding the old loop, take a fresh sheet. Write 1 clear, empowering sentence that represents the frequency you now choose. It might be, "I embody the flow of abundance," or "I live in harmony with my highest self." Keep it short, direct, and alive with feeling. This act of rewriting is not wishful thinking. It is activation. The words you write become anchors for your awareness. Every time you read them, or even remember them, you tune into that frequency. You're no longer repeating an invisible script. You're consciously writing the lines of your reality. Some people choose to carry this rewritten sentence with them, folded in a pocket or placed on an altar. Others read it every morning as a declaration. The form doesn't matter. What matters is that you've turned a hidden loop into a conscious choice. Rewriting is powerful because it shifts identity. You are not just saying different words, you are embodying a different self. And once the new self is activated, the old loop has no stage left to play on. The third micro-practice is the heart coherence ritual, a way of shifting your entire frequency by aligning the heart and mind. Science has shown that the heart generates the strongest electromagnetic field in the body. When the heart is in coherence, the mind and body follow, creating a state of harmony that naturally breaks the loop. The practice is simple. Place one hand on your chest, close your eyes, and breathe slowly into the area of your heart. As you inhale, imagine light expanding from your chest. As you exhale, imagine stress and static dissolving. After a few breaths, bring to mind a memory or feeling of gratitude. Let it expand until your chest feels warm, alive, and radiant. This isn't just emotional comfort, it's a quantum recalibration. Gratitude is one of the highest frequencies you can embody. When you generate it intentionally, your entire field synchronizes. The loop, which thrives on incoherence and fragmentation, cannot sustain itself in that state. Just 5 minutes of heart coherence each day creates ripples that last for hours. It's like tuning your entire being into harmony, so the probabilities you collapse mirror that alignment. Every time you step into heart coherence, you're declaring, I choose unity. I choose alignment. I choose the timeline of love. And reality, like a mirror, responds. Imagine standing at the edge of an infinite ocean. Each wave represents a potential reality piece. Abundance, love, freedom. Most people remain on the shore, dipping their toes into the same shallow waters again and again. That's the observer loop, repeating the familiar, never venturing deeper. Heart coherence is the boat that carries you beyond the shoreline. When your heart and mind synchronize, you rise above the static of fear and step into the open sea of possibilities. Gratitude becomes the wind in your sails, propelling you into timelines you never thought you could reach. The loop keeps you trapped because it convinces you the ocean doesn't exist, that the puddle at your feet is all there is. But the moment you generate coherence, you feel the vastness. You realize reality was never limited. Your awareness was. The ocean metaphor matters because it shows that possibilities aren't created. They are already here. You don't force them into existence. You tune into them by aligning your frequency. The waters of love, abundance, and freedom are waiting, but only coherence lets you set sail. Every time you breathe into your heart, you launch into the ocean. And each wave you ride is a new probability, carrying you closer to your highest timeline. Every time you step into heart coherence, the impact is not limited to you. The heart's electromagnetic field extends several feet beyond the body, and its resonance interacts with others. In the quantum field, your coherence becomes a signal that ripples outward, affecting the collective. Think of it like dropping a pebble into a still pond. One ripple becomes many, spreading further than you expect. When you generate gratitude or love, you're not just shifting your personal timeline, you're contributing to the collective frequency of humanity. The loop weakens not only for you, but for everyone who touches your field. This is why your personal practice matters more than you realize. You may think, it's just me, breathing for 5 minutes. But in truth, you're anchoring coherence in a world that is drowning in static. You are broadcasting stability into the quantum field, creating invisible permission for others to rise into alignment too. The collective ripple effect is one of the most overlooked aspects of awakening. We don't shift only for ourselves. We shift for the entire network of consciousness we're woven into. And when enough individuals choose coherence, the collective loop cracks, allowing humanity to step into higher timelines together. So never underestimate the power of your practice. Each moment of heart coherence is a gift you give to the whole. Your ripple may be unseen, but it is never unfelt. You did not arrive here by accident. The signs, the synchronicities, the strange pull that brought you to this message, all of it is confirmation. You are ready to end the observer loop. The practices are simple. 3 conscious breaths, a single written declaration, a few minutes of heart coherence. But don't let their simplicity fool you. In the quantum field, small acts ripple endlessly. A breath can collapse lifetimes. A sentence can rewrite destiny. A moment of coherence can shift the collective. The loop has only ever survived by keeping you unconscious. But now you are awake. You know the record is broken. The script is old, and the mirror is waiting for a new reflection. And the choice belongs to you. So here is your declaration. Write it. Whisper it. Type it below this video if you feel called. This loop ends. Now, I choose my highest timeline. Say it with conviction. Anchor it in your breath, your words, your heart. And watch how reality bends to match your decision. Because once you declare it, the shift is irreversible. The loop is over. Your highest self is here.